Hi, it's Jax here, and just gonna make another video to show a couple of the some of my latest knife creations that I've made here. Um, so lately I've made three things out of 5160 steel, and I've made a few knives out of it before, but lately I did the axe head from the previous video. So that was off a great big half-inch thick piece of 5160 spring steel. And a knife maker in Winnipeg gave me a 6 foot, maybe a 6 foot bar of 5160 from probably a steel supplier. So it was the good stuff. It was really good quality 5160. So anyways, I've used that great big bar of I guess it was 1.5 by 3/16 of an inch thick by 6 feet long, and I made a few knives with it over the years that I had it. And so anyways, I did the axe head, but that was a different piece of steel. So anyways, so I'll just get up closer to the camera here. And so I made this knife a long time ago. Just recently finished it though. When I made it the first time, I had a bit of a different grind on it, and I had blue and black G10 handles on it, and I had bolted the G10 handles with some spacer material onto the knife. So this knife was intended to be something of a bushcraft type of knife, like a heavy service forest knife or something like that, something really stout. And it was supposed to be a Scandinavian grind bushcraft style of knife, I think. So anyways, so I had the knife and I finished it, and I didn't use it much with the G10 handles and that. Anyways, this was a while back. So so yeah. So long story short, I eventually took the G10 handles off and started messing with the blade and stuff like that. And then it was just sitting there for a good long time. Recently, I took it out again and heat treated it again, and I grinded it, changed the profile of the bevels a little bit on both sides, evened them out from its original thing. They weren't quite even before when I made it the first time. Anyways, so yeah, so I reground the blade. And it pretty much has a lot of its basic shape from its original inception. So anyways, and then I heat treated this one. I quenched it in oil. I think, well, I might have water quenched it. I was oil quenching 5160, but you can get away with water quenching. I can't remember. Maybe I did water quench this one. So sometimes the steel will warp or crack if you water quench it. But so I have oil quenched 5160. Maybe I did water quench this, or maybe I did oil quench it. I can't remember. But anyways, so I quenched this one twice, and I think I normalized it and did some of the heat treating protocol. 5160 is a steel they say benefits from triple quenching. So anyways, this one was quenched twice. In its whole lifespan, it was probably quenched three or four times or something like that. But anyways, so I quenched it twice, and then I gave it a cryogenic treatment before I tempered it, and then I which was a kind of a deep freeze. I brought the steel down to like -30. I don't have liquid nitrogen or dry ice or anything like that, so that was the coldest I could get the steel. That's supposed to help transform any remaining austenite into martensite. And then after the cryo quenching, I stuck it in the oven and tempered it for 2 hours at 360 degrees Fahrenheit, I believe. And then I let it cool to room temperature. Gave it another cryo treatment and then tempered it again for 2 hours at 360 degrees Fahrenheit. After that, I polished the blade with a automotive style car polisher with valve grinding compound and chromium oxide and sandpaper and all sorts of different procedures. It is a steel that will rust, 5160 is. So underneath the wrapped handle, I used wood stove paint, that kind of wood stove there. I used high temperature wood stove paint to paint the handle. So it's a full tang knife. It's a fixed blade, full tang. Anyway, so it was painted so that the strider wrapped, the leather that's in the strider wrap here, just in case it gets wet, the moisture won't be sitting on the steel. And even if it did rust, you can just take it off and re-sand it down and refinish it. But anyways, yeah. So wood stove paint, I think that's good to like 600 degrees Celsius or something like that. Anyways, then I was gonna wrap it in paracord, but I didn't have any, not paracord, shock cord, but I didn't have the piece I had left over. It wasn't big enough, so I went and wrapped it with this black leather in the strider style wrap there. I screwed up once there, it looks like, but not on this side. It's all even. I had to drill some holes in the tang, and there's a few holes in the tang to try to balance out the knife underneath the leather here. So anyways, there's the strider wrap. For a long time with the knives I was making, I didn't put on my maker's mark, and recently in the first knives that I used to make, I used to scribe or engrave or whatever the number in succession of what number in succession since I started making knives. So it would be like the third knife I've ever made or whatever. Anyways, I stopped doing that. I've probably made somewhere over 20 knives since I started this a couple years ago. Anyways, recently I put my maker's mark back on. A few knives that I have, I left that off. So my maker's mark is just a J and a B. It's right there. I put it in there with a diamond engraving tool for a Dremel. So it's a beautiful knife. It has a really high polish, mirror polish. It's really thick and stout. Really nice point on it. I sharpened it up with a set of Lansky stones. It's a high saber grind. It's a high saber grind, and the primary, and also the blade shape. I guess you could call it just a straight blade. It might actually dip down, but it's probably not. Not enough to call it a drop point or anything like that. It is razor sharp. It is really, really, really good and sharp. I made a guard, which is just a cutout in the original piece of steel. So it's kind of a guard, this little jutting out piece. Its intention was always a guard. I drew this design onto a piece of paper and then laid that paper on top of a bar of 5160. So this was made with the stock removal method. It's a really beautiful knife. It's really nice. It's about maybe just over 8 inches, somewhere around there, 8 inches long or something like that. The handle, I don't have big hands, but the handle is really nice. There's a bit sticking out left over. It's super comfortable in the saber grip. It's also really, really good in the reverse grip kind of thing. With the full tang, you can put your thumb there. So yeah, it's razor sharp. I don't know if I have any paper that I could do a... Hang on a sec, I'll grab some paper. So, here's just a piece of paper. kind of demonstration, but it just blisters through it. It's really sharp. It'll shave. I don't know if you can. I don't know if this. I'm filming with an iPod Touch, so I don't know if it's quite capturing that, but. So anyways, I also made a sheath out of it. It's not the prettiest looking thing. This green stuff isn't the sheath, that's just a belt that's wrapped around the sheath. I made the sheath out of a crazy carpet plastic insert with a nylon jacket hood that I cut and sewed into shape. So inside, I don't know if you can see inside, there's a crazy carpet insert, but it works really good. It holds the knife securely, so I guess you would call it a pouch style sheath. It's in there pretty good. Not the prettiest looking thing, but I made one sheath that was really nice, and that was out of birch bark. But so that's the 5160 spring steel hunter bushcrafting kind of knife thing. So and then I made this. I might want to step back for a second. So, and then there's this thing. So, this thing here is not a machete. Everybody that has seen it has called it a machete, or kind of named it a machete. But if you can see, it's 3/16 of an inch thick, which is much too thick to be classified as a machete. Although I can see what they're talking about. It kind of has the profile. So the story behind this thing is, this is the remaining bar of 5160 steel that I had left, and 5160 spring steel is known for its toughness. It's incredibly tough. It has about 0.56 to 0.6 something % carbon, a little bit of chromium, some silicone and stuff like that. It's a relatively simple, you know, medium-high carbon alloy, but the point is, it's very, very, very tough, and it makes an excellent knife. It can, if you harden it right, it gets really, really hard, and it will hold an edge. Anyways, it's really good for making swords, or giant camp knives, or something like that. So anyways, so I decided one day to make a zombie killing weapon, and for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, zombie killing themes are kind of popular lately, last couple of years. People are having a lot of fun with the whole possible zombie apocalypse that might happen at the end of the world, or when the shit hits the fan type of scenario. So people, you know, doomsday preppers, and a lot of those guys are having fun, or gathering up weapons and supplies and stuff like that. But anyways, this was made with the intent of having a great big zombie killing tool. And I really wanted to make a short sword, or a wakizashi, something like that. So its intent wasn't really, its intent was always to be a chopper and a big knife. I mean, it's 21 inches long. It's solid steel from the butt to the tip. It's full tang. It's just one piece of steel, one bar of steel. Anyways, so yeah, so I wanted a fun zombie killing type of giant knife. So it's really a giant knife, or a short sword is what it turned out to be. So anyways, it's pretty big. I mean, it's as long as my arm, from my armpit to just past my wrist. Anyways, so it kind of looks like a machete, and it also kind of looks like a Japanese wakizashi, which is a short sword that the samurai warrior would have. It falls into size. It falls into a size between a tanto and a katana, and in the middle of those two, the samurai would carry a wakizashi, which is kind of very similar to this. Anyways, it does have a Japanese influenced blade bevel and tip. It has a tanto-like tip, but I modified it, so it's kind of a tanto-like tip. It's kind of a mixture of a radius grind and a flat grind. It's really neat. But it's tanto-like in its tip for strength. Pretty thick stock there at the tip. So this knife is, anyway, so it's kind of a flat and radius bevel. And if you're wondering how I did that, it's I used an angle grinder. And angle grinder and files and stuff like that. Anyways, so it is the grind goes above the halfway mark, so it's almost like a I don't know. It's anyway, so say it's a midway bevel grind with a hybrid tanto tip. It's really thick. It's really thick stock there. I put a choil on it. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a choil, nice and smooth. Anyways, the choil is there just in case you wanted to slide your hand up more and get more control of the knife, in case you had to do finer tasks. If you're using it to be a camp chopping knife and you just so happen to have making feather sticks or peeling your vegetables around your campfire or anything like that. So a choil usually allows you to take your hand and move it up a bit, therefore giving you more control. So it is a two-handed weapon. I have medium, maybe normal size medium hands, maybe smaller for a guy, but when I grip it two hands, you can see that I still have, you know, like a 3/4 of an inch or something like that, 5/8 of an inch left sticking out. There's my maker's mark, again, the J and the B figure engraved in there with a Dremel tool. Again, just like the other knife I showed you, underneath the cord wrap handle is painted black wood stove paint to protect it from rust. Also, that's why these both have a high polish finish. A way to battle rust on plain carbon steels that are non-stainless is to put a high polish finish on it, which really gets rid of all the nooks and crannies that moisture or dirt or whatever could to get into the cracks, or that gets into the cracks and sits on there to promote rust. So a high polish finish is one way to deal with that. Cleaning your blade or weapon every time you use it is another way, and oiling it is another good way. Just taking a rag with some oil and just applying some maybe vegetable grade oil or something like that. Also, you can force a patina onto carbon steels, which I guess kind of seals off the surface layer. You could rub this with vinegar or onions or mustard or any citrus fruit. If you do that, make sure you, and anyways, it darkens the steel, maybe oxidizes the surface layer, and actually protects it from further rusting for the most part, patinas. If you do that, make sure you neutralize your blade later by maybe you know, soaking it in baking soda, warm baking soda water, nice and warm so it gets into the pores of the steel. Anyways, to finish it off, I once again give it a strider wrapped handle. This time I don't think I screwed up on it like the other one. It's all in there good. This is not paracord or leather this time around. It is shock cord. Shock cord's like a bungee-like material. Anyways, I left the enough in there to make a lanyard, which works this way, or it also works this way for a retention type of thing. So as you can see, it's on my hand pretty good. Anyway, so it is a formidable weapon. I mean, you know, that's a pretty formidable blade. It really has a Japanese flair to it. It's almost like a short sword, you know, kind of thing. But yeah, really formidable weapon. It is sharp. Here's again the piece of paper, and I sharpened it pretty good. So I don't know if you saw that, but this piece came flying off. But so, oops. So, as a zombie killing tool, you know, it shaves. It does shave. So, anyways, I didn't make a sheath for it. I did not make a sheath for it, but so there it is. I don't know what else I could add about this. Oh yeah, this one I believe I quenched it a few times. I had a problem with warpage, so I had to heat it up and straighten it out, and I had to normalize the metal after all the grinding stresses were put in it. And it's a pretty easy steel in the whole scheme of things to heat treat. You can just use a magnet and actually a basic wood stove type of fire, as long as you have good air control and you know how to blow air onto the coals to really heat it up. So and I guess I soaked it for a bit at the temperature, just at the above its critical temperature there, where it becomes non-magnetic, and blah 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 blah. It was also water quenched because it's such a big blade. I didn't have a tray of oil or a tray that I could fill with that much oil, so this was water quenched. That's another interesting point. Since it's water quenched, it's like a samurai sword in that, I don't know if you can see it, but it has a subtle upsweep to it. It's no longer perfectly flat, but now it's arced upwards, and that's from quenching it tip first at an angle into the water. And when you do that, just like a katana samurai sword would, it's the quenching that gives that curve to the sword. As soon as you plunge it in the water, it goes and bends upward and forms a nice sweeping arc, which is good for slashing. But this has that, like a wakizashi would, I would imagine. And that's from the water quenching, just like a Japanese sword maker would do. From what I've noticed, they seem to plunge it into the water tip first at like a whatever 30-degree angle or 25-degree angle or whatever, and to promote the shape. I've done that before with W1 and W2 steels, and man, is it flex upwards. And that's probably from the thicker top portion and the thinner small portion down here. It'll generally flex towards the thicker part, I believe. So anyways, it's 23 minutes that I'm into this video, so I guess I better wrap it up pretty quick. Anyways, these are both spring steel, and yeah, so some of their creations there. Anyways, it's Jax saying thank you very much for watching again, and take it easy. Bye-bye.